Hi everyone, I'm Allison. Thanks for joining me for Where I'm From 108 with Amy. What have you been reading? I have read this, just such an enjoyable book, Wannabe Reckonings with the Pop Culture That Shaped Me by Aisha Harris. Um, as you can see here, she's co-host of NPR's Happy Hour, Pop Culture Happy Hour, which I don't listen to, but I did really enjoy this book because so much pop culture criticism is centered around white dudes and their experiences. So this was such a breath of fresh air reading a black woman's perspective on pop culture, and her references were very fresh, which I also appreciated. Like shows that's old, stuff that we watched a long time ago, and I want to engage with conversations about pop culture that we are watching now. So this is the book for you if you're also like that. Hi, Amy. How are you?
Hi, Allison. I'm good. I'm so excited to be here with
It's
you. I love this. I love
it's
that you
such
do
a
this.
joy for me to have a reason to sit down with someone at least once a week and have a conversation about, where they're from and where they are now. And this is my stuff. I love this stuff. No,
I know you're so good at it.
so is there anything you want to chat about before you read your poem, or you just want to lunch into it? What is your preference?
I just want to share, first of all, thank you for having me. And
Mm-hmm.
it was so healing doing this poem too. I just to really reflect on my own journey, and just to be able to share my own journey is healing in itself, especially I think for people who come from or have experienced trauma. Sometimes there's a lot of shame around it and a lot of secrecy. So I think having a place to share a bit of it is healing in
I love
itself.
that.
So I just wanted to
I think
share
that's
that.
so true. Just having
Yeah.
someone listen to it. And yeah, and you're not asking a favor of me. You're not, it's just I'm asking you, and it's a different sort of relationship. We don't often have someone say, "Oh, tell me." Tell me. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me all about your
But also in like a
trauma and
bite-sized
life.
piece. Not like, a lot. Just
Yeah.
this amount.
Just a bit, just a little bit. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but with my own trauma, there was a lot of secrecy around it, and that created a lot of shame. So a lot of healing has come from just letting go of that shame and just giving people permission
Yeah.
to also
Whatever
share
their
their own
story
story.
is, and that it's valid and it's yours. You don't have to like prove it to me
Yeah.
or come with some documents backing up your story. I will just take it at face value and believe it. And I think that was a real struggle for me for a long time, feeling like I needed to prove something, prove my own experience, which is a real. It's not going to work. It doesn't work. You can't prove it. It just is.
Yeah, and that it's valid. Like somebody might have
Yeah.
gone through the same experience with you and they have their own experience. And for so many years, I was
Mm.
like, I wanted to make sure mine matched up. I felt like it validated in some way. And it's like, I think my
Mhm.
thing has been, no, I have my own life lessons to learn, and whatever that experience was for me, and learning through that, that's mine. And standing in that's been a journey for sure.
Mhm.
The poem kind of reflects that. Um, so it was, and I never consider myself a writer. My husband's a writer, and I was like, okay, I have some things to say. It's okay. It's just the way I do it. It doesn't.
Yeah.
I can get into a lot of comparison, and I call it the disease of comparison, and it never leaves
No,
me
it
feeling
never
good
leaves
about
anyone feeling
myself.
good about themselves, which I'm sure as a parent, you've had this conversation with your kids a few times. So, you know, it's like we're all
For
different, but it's a lifelong lesson, I think.
yeah,
So, okay, are you ready?
definitely.
That was quite an introduction.
I'm, yes, I am ready. So here we go, everyone. So I'm from I'm from seashells and stardust, from Dairy Queen's peanut butter parfait, and pledge dusting spray. I'm from the corner of the couch, lumpy, comfy, and warm, with leftover food bits found underneath the cushion. I'm from birds of paradise, the exotic flower, colorful, pointy, and long-lasting in the vase where it's been since last Tuesday. I'm from Sunday family dinners and freckles, from Jimmy and Peggy. I'm from the partiers and the sinners, from pull up your big girl panties and stop crying. You're taking everything too personally. I'm from anxiety-laden nights that led to panic attacks, OCD, and food addiction. Ice cream, packages of cheese, and raw chocolate chip cookie dough were my choices to give me the hugs and comfort I craved. I'm from frankincense and mirth, kneeling in the confessional, repeating to be a good girl. I'm from Erie, Pennsylvania, half Irish, half Italian, meatballs and spaghetti, and a family cottage where the O'Neills congregated and celebrated. For my dad's suicide or heart attack, depending on who you ask, which occurred on my 1-year wedding anniversary. In my dresser drawer, I have his 1-year sobriety AA chip, which he gave to me in a dream before he died. Here, take it, he said. I'm from a reminder that healing is possible through surrender and work, through forgiveness and love.
That was beautiful. I know so many of those details, but
Yeah.
hearing them all together as a narrative journey is so powerful.
Yeah, yeah. And I appreciate, I loved how the poem was given to us, kind of follow. That was, and it, as you probably experienced, it's like I wrote the first draft and then it was like, the more I sat with it and let it marinate, then even I just added a couple things before I knew I was going to be doing this with you. And I was like, there it is. There, that's the final thing I
It's
wanted
a
to say
really
where
good
I'm
feel.
from.
Thank you, Erin, for your feedback. I hope you're seeing that. She's in tears and she's saying it's absolutely beautiful.
Aw,
um,
thanks, Catherine.
I love that feeling when you're writing or doing any sort of project and it's like, oh, it's done. I did it. It's a really satisfying feeling. You kind of chase it, or I chase it, like,
Yeah, yeah. The perfection wanted to keep going a little bit.
yeah,
Like, it's okay, honey.
yeah.
Just relax. It's fine.
So you've talked a little bit like your experience. When did you write it? Did you write it recently or, and I can't keep track because these schedules are far ahead.
I wrote the poem, it was like a couple months ago. And then I just, when I knew, like I said, when I knew I was coming back on with you, I kind of looked back on it and I was like, I added the part
Mm.
just recently about the anxiety because I was like, that was a big part of my story. That came from the trauma.
Mm.
It got exasperated, I think, because of the trauma through it because I didn't have a way to express it. So it kind of
Yeah.
just got pushed down for many, many years. And I had a nervous
Me too.
breakdown when I was in high
It's so
school, my
fun.
senior year, because that's wow.
Mine was junior year, but same. Hmm.
Well, I was
Hmm.
getting ready to leave my home, and um
Yeah.
it was just in my face. I just um I my poor little adolescent just didn't know what to do anymore, and I had a breakdown,
Mm.
and that's when I started getting therapy, and that's when I started getting kind of liberated in my own experience, and my mom was really helpful in that
Yeah.
because she was like, we got to get this handled because it was just starting to be really challenging, and I was like, I didn't put that in my story at first, and I was like, oh, that's a big part of my story, and it's been a journey, and I think it's important to give it its own
Yeah. And I think
space.
I loved how you talked about how these are the things that I did for the hugs that I wanted, like that you can make that connection because it takes a while to get there where you can know that the maladaptive behavior is connected, like, that it's all connected. And it is all about where we're from. So that's part of the reason I'm so fascinated with this prompt and these conversations.
Yeah, because in my own executive coaching
Yeah,
work, I always say there's like a lot of
for
10-year-olds
sure.
running corporations, well, maybe 12,
So true.
maybe.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and it's a lot because and it's difficult for them to, I'm not a therapist, so it's not about excavating a lot of things. And I think it's important to go, the coping mechanisms I got instilled as I was a
Yeah.
kid, those worked for then. And adult, they don't work as well because we've grown up and we've changed and we've had different experiences and we're not underneath where we lived. So it's like, how am I going to deal with life now? And for a lot of people, they don't even see it. They don't even know what to do with it. So I feel like my experience is a way I get to support people and them getting free from those ways,
Yeah,
we try to survive, it
for
was
sure.
a survival
Yeah,
mechanism
and you
for
kind of have
sure, 100%.
to appreciate them. Like I think that speaking of shame, I think there can be this temptation to, berate ourselves or loathe ourselves for the things that we do. And I think it's really important to say to that 10-year-old, 6-year-old, however, all of the above, um, thank you. Like, we're here because of you.
Yeah.
I don't need this anymore, but like, thank you. Not, why did I ever do that? I can't believe I did, because that's just more
Yeah.
of the same. And it's not helpful. So yeah, it's important to acknowledge that these things got us here and, and to be grateful for those versions of ourselves. They do.
And they need to
Yeah.
be seen. They need to light, right? It's like they need light because for me, in 12-step work, they
Mm.
always say you're always as sick as your secret. And I think
I
first
mean,
myself,
all of it sounds cliche.
okay.
That's the thing.
And
You gotta get over that hump.
and it's like, okay, but there's reasons that exist, right? Because um and it's hard sometimes to let the secrets out because some people they want the secrets stay in
Yeah.
because that's where they feel safer. And for me,
Mm-hmm.
that's never been a truth. um I've had to bring them out because I was the truth sayer in the I would say, I don't know if my sisters or my mom would say this,
Mm-hmm.
but I think, I would call it out as a kid. And then it was like, you're
Yeah.
making it worse. Don't say, like, because my dad would go off. And then I was like, does anybody else see this is
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
crazy? What's happening here? You know? And it was hard because you have to confront a lot of things and that can be difficult for people. I've had that
Yeah,
same
and I think
experience
also there's
myself.
fear in naming it, right? Like there's fear because until we name it, we can pretend it's not there. That he doesn't have a drinking problem or a rage
Right?
problem or whatever was going on. He's just in a bad mood or he's just like this or, all that stuff. Yeah, I had a similar. Aaron also is a truth teller. I also, I think it's interesting. I don't label myself that way, but I just was I was just really trying to understand what the actual fuck was going on. You know, like, is this what's going
Yeah.
on? Because it seems like this is what's going on. And it was my own desire to understand and also to like, I'm not making this up. I'm not crazy, and that was very motivating for me because I was worried about that because that's definitely something that runs, down the
Oh,
matrilineal line. Like being called crazy, being institutionalized, all those things. So I was like very, okay, what is this? Yeah.
is this me or is something? Yeah. And I think I had I'm a woman that I coach with. We have our own coach and we coach together. And she said to me, I was saying something that was upsetting. And she's like, Amy, I just really hear
Mm-hmm.
you want to be told you're right. And it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't from like an ego place. I'm right. She
Mm-hmm.
goes, but it's that acknowledgement. I'm like, you're right. You're right. Like, am I nuts? I'm always trying to like, is
Mm-hmm.
the way I feel okay? Because my feelings were
Mm-hmm.
questioned a lot. Like, well, why do you feel like that? Why? Why? It was always like, why? And it created that part of my, and I've really had to cultivate trusting my inner knowing that it is okay, even if somebody doesn't agree with it or if
Mm-hmm.
somebody gets mad at what I say. And that took a lot. That
Yeah.
took a lot of therapy. That took a lot of
Well, and it's
to get
ongoing,
to
right?
that
It's like
place.
you got to check back in. And I think that's really interesting what you're saying because about the wanting to be right, because of course I like spend a lot of time in my life wanting to be right. And I think it does actually spring from that wanting to be validated. I think that is the piece that is
I
actually wanting to be addressed.
and most people, I think, in my experience of all the people I've
Right.
coached,
To be
that's all
seen.
they want.
Mhm.
To be seen, to be heard, to be validated. I'm really reading a good book, Dignity. And I think that's what, like when my dad was being, he was emotionally abusive because, and I found this out later, that he was sexually abused. So it was like when I found that out, I was like,
Yeah.
well, that makes a lot of sense the way he was. He never was able to really process that and heal it. And when he would get emotionally abusive, I was like fighting for my dignity. When you're being told you're a crybaby, you're stupid. Why do you think this way? It was like I was fighting for my dignity, and I think that's what most people just want
Mhm.
to hold on to that. And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
at least I do.
Yeah. For sure. Just to be seen and respected
Yeah,
and not negated, you know. Mhm.
yeah. Dismiss the dismiss. I think is in the abandonment in the dismissiveness. I think was what if I were to go back to the ice cream packages and chocolate chip cookie, um, those were
Yeah.
fast ways to feel better because I was trying to get it somewhere else, and it just at times it just wasn't enough, and I didn't know how to self-soothe myself. So that was the easiest way to do it, and good for me until it got to be a really big problem to
Yeah. Yeah.
get handled.
I think it's interesting. I, she's been on here and I really enjoyed her book, Emmy Neatfeld. She was talking about how she did a lot of that through exercise and how as a society we're much more like encouraging and supportive of people. And I definitely have done that as well. And it's so interesting how certain ways of soothing or self-medicating or whatever phrase you want to use are like good, exercise, work, but then others are, but they're doing the same thing, which is helping you not look at whatever's over there, or the whole, but
Yeah.
certain ones you get a lot of positive feedback about. And so that becomes actually even more sort of sometimes complicated to untangle.
Yeah, I mean, it's like people want to celebrate
Mm-hmm.
what they think is the quick, you know, way through. And I remember really,
Yeah.
and people are doing the best they can, right? Like they pick the things that was it's like it's the best way we can do it. And I think kind of what I want to support people doing, it's like where I feel like my mission is through what I went through and how I grew up is
Yeah.
to show, wow, there's other ways, that,
Yeah.
and people just don't know. Well, you don't know what you don't know, right? It's helped me with my own kids. Just, I was very determined before I had my
Yeah.
children not to pass on certain things. I mean, there's things on that my parents are
Yay.
me. Yeah, that's too. I mean, they were horrible. I'm not trying to come off like that, but the times were tough, and I was really determined not to pass those things on. It was funny. My oldest son, he went to college, and before he went to college, he said to me and my husband, you and Dad have supported me so well emotionally. So can you now support me more financially? And I was like, I did it. I did it. I was like, okay, sure, sure, honey. Yeah, we'll
I
pay your
love
rent
that
for you.
framing.
The world.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That made me feel, like just, okay, he's felt supported that way, and
Yeah.
that was really important
No,
for us. So
it is important. And you're from here, you're wonderful parents from where I'm sitting. Um, so any last thoughts before we wrap up, Amy? We've had a really deep chat, not surprisingly.
did. I just thank you again, Allison, for this, for sharing your own journey with personally friends. I just think what you're doing here is, and my story can support anybody. I'm here for it. So, uh,
Oh, this was
thank you.
just lovely. So, thank you for your
Oh,
time and your poem and our
great.
conversation, and I hope to see you soon in real life.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, then we got to make that happen.
Okay. Thank you.
All
Bye.
right.